What is going on, everyone? Today we're going to be taking a look at the history of a game that ended an era. Actually, it ended more than one era, and that is Mortal Kombat 4. Here we go. Mortal Kombat 4 debuted on September 11th, 1997 in arcades everywhere. It would forever change Mortal Kombat as we knew it. To understand why this change happened, we need to go back to 1995. During the development of MK3, another game was also in development, War Gods. War Gods would be Midway's first fighting game using polygonal graphics. Games like Tekken and Virtua Fighter were already on the scene, so Midway was a little late to the party. Unfortunately for War Gods, it was not very well received. The gameplay was nearly identical to Mortal Kombat, except for the addition of a 3D button that would allow you to perform moves within the full three-dimensional space. While it may sound good on paper, the gameplay was very sluggish and stiff, a far cry from the fast-paced action of Mortal Kombat. If I had to guess, War Gods was simply a test to eventually bring Mortal Kombat to this new 3D world of game development. It would eventually come true, as Mortal Kombat 4 would abandon the digitized actors for fully polygonal fighters. Only 2 motion capture actors were used to create the roster of characters. This decision would be the end of Mortal Kombat as we knew it. According to Sal DeVita, during a recent convention, they felt they hit their peak with digitized graphics by the time they started working on MK3. While this may be true, I think what fans really expected was another MK game using the tried and true digitized graphics. Perhaps they didn't realize just how important the digitized sprites of real actors were to the MK fans. Having real actors digitized into the games added to the sense of realism of the previous games. By going with polygonal graphics for MK4, they would officially abandon an important component of what made MK, MK. That's not to say MK4 didn't have its audience. Unlike War Gods, MK4 managed to capture the fast-paced action that MK3 and UMK3 previously introduced. The game played incredibly well. While retaining the dial-a-combo style of MK3, MK4 got rid of the comedic finishing moves of the past, such as friendships and babalities. MK4 was going for a much darker tone than the previous game, so fatalities were now the only finishing moves. With the use of 3D graphics, they were able to create new and unique fatalities not possible with digitized sprites. While this is cool, it's not as impactful seeing cartoonish polygonal fighters being ripped apart compared to the lifelike digitized sprites of the past. MK4 would embark on a summer-long road tour leading up to its official release in September. During this tour, players would get to experience the game before it hit their local arcades. It also served as a testing phase, using the feedback from players to make adjustments to the game before the September release. Players liked the game, noting the darker tone the game was going for. However, for this hardcore MK fan, it was very hard to accept a fully polygonal MK game. The graphics were actually quite good for the time, featuring smooth textures and fluid movements. The gameplay was fast-paced and action-packed. New in MK4 was the ability to draw weapons and use objects scattered around the stages, adding a new element to the action. Also, the ability to sidestep in and out of the 3D plane was added. Aside from all of this, the game still largely plays like MK3. Versus screen combat codes return from MK3, allowing for a range of features during 2-player games. MK4 would introduce many new fighters to the franchise: Kai, Jarek, Fujin, Tanya, and Quan freshen up the selection of fighters, while franchise favorites such as Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Raiden, Jax, and Sonya return to take on the fresh blood. Shao Kahn does not return in MK4. Taking his place as the main antagonist is the fallen Elder God Shinnok, and for the first time ever, the main boss is also a regular playable fighter. However, this would present a problem for single-player games. Having Shinnok as the main boss felt a little flat. He's not nearly as imposing as Shao Kahn, and he's also fairly easy to beat, even in the final revision of the game. The multiple battle plan towers for single player return in MK4, however this time they can be rotated to change the lineup of fighters you will face. Even the hardest tower isn't nearly as difficult as previous MK games. This would present a problem for arcade operators looking to maximize profits. Less quarters spent to beat the game means less profits for the arcade. When MK4 finally debuted in my local arcade, it was surprisingly popular. However, it was nowhere near as popular as the previous games. There would be a handful of people around the game at any given time, but nothing like the massive crowds that previous games drew. This was most certainly the beginning of the end for MK in arcades. Within just a few months, the MK4 machines at my local arcade were void of any players. Gone were the days of waiting for the arcade to open just to get in a game or two before the crowd showed up, putting your token on the glass to take your spot in line, watching over the shoulders of others just to see a glimpse of the action taking place. Nope, those days were gone after MK3. MK4 never elicited that type of appointment gameplay, with Sega Saturn, Sony PlayStation, and Nintendo 64 bringing more arcade-like gameplay to homes. The arcades were slowly dying. I still think, had they stuck to the previous game's strengths, including digitized graphics, it would have gone out with more of a bang instead of a whimper. Fans wanted the tried and true formula, and they abandoned that formula. The home console versions of MK4 would release later in 1998, with some notable changes. A new background, the ice pit, was added, as well as the return of Goro as the secondary boss before fighting Shinnok. This was a much-needed change that really should have been made to the arcade version, but never was. Later, with the launch of the Sega Dreamcast, a new upgraded version called Mortal Kombat Gold would debut. Much like UMK3, this version added new fighters and new backgrounds, as well as a graphical improvement that was superior to the arcade version of MK4. Over the years, I've come to appreciate MK4 for what it is, and I do enjoy playing it these days. It is nowhere near the original 3 arcade games, not even close, but it is still fun to play. MK4 is bittersweet to me, not just because it was the end of MK as we knew it, but because it also represents the end of arcades as we knew them. So there you go, folks, the history of Mortal Kombat 4. Over the years, the game has grown on me. Obviously, I have it in my collection. I have the coin-op, and I have the home versions, and all that good stuff. Even if it is Midway's attempt to be like Tekken. You know, those games like Tekken and Virtua Fighter were out, and Midway felt left behind. And unfortunately, Mortal Kombat was the scapegoat for that, to kind of advance them to that next level. But did that really matter? No, because arcades would never be the same again, and Mortal Kombat would never be the same again with the release of Mortal Kombat 4. So, there you go. With that said, I will catch you all down the road.